making a lot of noise at AT&T Stadium.
Anything that moves between these lines, got to get dealt with.
10-5, and he streaks in. Deep to the post to Lamb. At the 5 to the goal line.
Dallas Cowboys Game Night is presented by AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
Under the bright lights of the Strip in Las Vegas, the Dallas Cowboys make their first ever trip in the regular season to the Sin City, and they leave with a 33-16 win in Week 11 over the Las Vegas Raiders. They get their fourth win of the campaign, and they do so in dominant fashion with multiple sacks, a new-look defense, and 4 passing touchdowns from Dak Prescott to 4 different Cowboys wide receivers. Welcome in to Cowboys Game Night here from the Star in Frisco in the Globe Life Studios, alongside 3-time Super Bowl champ Nate Newton and Super Bowl champion Isaiah Stanback. I'm Kyle Yeomans up here, not a Super Bowl champ, but hey, we're having fun nonetheless. The Cowboys get the win, a much improved performance on the defensive side, which was to be expected against a Raiders team that has struggled throughout the year. But Isaiah, you still got to check the box, and that's what Dallas did tonight.
Yeah, I mean, now obviously they weren't facing the world beaters in terms of the Raiders offensively, but they still had a job to go out and do, and they did it. We were excited about the new additions. We were excited about the returning players for the Dallas Cowboys coming off an injury, and they all showed up, starting off with Quinnen Williams in the middle. We knew that he was a dominant player, but it's one thing to know that somebody's dominant. It's another thing for them to show up and have their best game of their career in their first night with the Dallas Cowboys. He went back there and had a tackle for loss, 5 quarterback hits, 1.5 sacks on the night. Absolutely balled out. And because of what he did interiorly, his partner now, his Bash Bro, and Kenny Clark had one heck of a night. The defensive ends had a heck of a night. The linebackers didn't have anybody trying to block them, so they had a heck of a night. And there was less time for the quarterback to sit back and hold the ball. So you know who else was a benefactor? Your secondary had a heck of a night. So one player made a huge impact on this defense. It's not just him, but he did impact this game in a major way.
You know, it just amazes me how just one game can make a difference like this. I mean, now, granted, we're going to keep saying all night it was the Raiders. But you know what? Pete Carroll loves to run the football. Yep. And he couldn't do it tonight. He only had 27 yards rushing. He dominated. The Cowboys dominated that section of the game. So it allowed them to load up on offense. It allowed your defensive line to rush with 4, 5 guys and get home. They had a great night, starting with Quinnen Williams.
It really was a fun outing across the board. Didn't start in a fun way. It was an emotional night from Allegiant Stadium, the first game back since the tragic loss of Marshawn Kneeland. Both teams observing a moment of silence prior to kickoff. We're going to start things off in the second quarter of this one. It was 6-3 Vegas. CeeDee Lamb entered the day with just 1 touchdown grab, make it 2. He's wide open in the back of the end zone. Touchdown, Dallas. This is where the Cowboys' new-look defense would start to show their stuff. Quinnen Williams with the sack in his debut with the Dallas Cowboys puts Las Vegas behind the chains, and Dallas would take full advantage. After a Vegas punt, Dak Prescott on 4th down and short finds Jake Ferguson in the middle of the hash marks. Fergie open for 6. He now has 7 receiving touchdowns on the year, already increasing his career-high number here in 2025. Geno Smith and the Raiders starting to press a little bit on their next drive, trying to find points. Instead, off a tip pass, they find Marquise Bell, his first interception as a Dallas Cowboy. Off the tip pass, he works back to the sideline. A huge celebration to follow. Dallas forces the first takeaway of the day. It was tipped on the second level by Kenneth Murray, and Bell, the benefactor, with the interception. On the other side of the 2-minute warning, Dak Prescott finds George Pickens, who turns on the Jets after making a great move. Then he spurts back inside to the middle of the field, and there's a great look at it from here. One skirt to the left, another skirt to the inside. George Pickens leaving defenders in the dust, finding the end zone. First game this year where both Lamb and Pickens have scored a touchdown. Into the third quarter we go. Dallas trying to keep their foot on the gas. This one on the flat to Ryan Flanoy. It's the 4th passing touchdown of the game for Dak Prescott to 4 different Cowboys wide receivers. Dallas up big at the end of the third, 24-9. The Raiders would get on the board with a touchdown in the fourth quarter, but their last real opportunity to make it a game. Instead, results in a Donovan Ezeraku tackle for loss. Ashton Ginty is forced for the sack. That makes it 33-16, which would be the final. The mentee, Brian Schottenheimer, defeats the mentor, Pete Carroll, and of course they all did it for Marshawn Kneeland as they hold up the jersey following a 33-16 win and the fourth win of the 2025 campaign for the Dallas Cowboys. A couple numbers to note on the final stats brought to you by Miller Lite. Third downs, the Raiders held to just 3 for 12 on third downs and also 27 rushing yards. You add a Logan Wilson, you add a Quinnen Williams, you welcome back a DeMarvion Overshone, and guys like Ashton Ginty and the Raiders just could not run the football here in Week 11. We've got to look at this new look defense on the defensive side for the Dallas Cowboys. Quinnen Williams and company were fantastic. We'll talk about that defense when we come back.
This segment is brought to you by the Texas Lottery. Dallas Cowboys scratch tickets from the Texas Lottery are here. Play today.
Definitely emotional. A guy who played with relentless effort. A guy who was smart, a guy who made plays on the field. So seeing that picture on for me personally, just gave me the motivation to play like him, to play with effort and to make plays also. So
how good did it feel to go out there and not only debut for the Cowboys after being off from football for a couple of weeks,
Yep.
double bye, but to have the explosive debut that you had?
I'm playing with some great individuals, man. You got Kenny Clark, you got Osa, you got Easy, you got JD over there, man. So the guys around me, man, is playing unbelievable. It helped me. All I just kind of needed to do is just do my job, and it was that, man. But having a great group of guys around me make it easy for me. So.
What was the move on the sidelines like in the game?
Quinnen Williams following his first game with the Dallas Cowboys, and a successful one that it was. He was just the fourth player since the early parts of the, I think it was 1980 was the stat. Fourth player in Cowboys franchise history to have at least a sack and a half in his debut with the team. The last one to do it was Eric Kendricks a couple seasons ago. So when you have that type of impact in your first game, where do you go from here, Isaiah? Because I think the precedent has been set. Quinnen Williams is here to stay, and he's playing against and with some of the best players that he's played with so far.
Yeah, I think obviously Matt Eberflus is going to start figuring out what the best rotation is. You kind of saw kind of a merry-go-round of players this evening in a lot of different fronts, 4-3, 4-2, 5-1. You saw a little bit of everything. So I think based upon the opponent and what they present, I think you now can match up the way in which is most beneficial to you and your team. But tonight was one heck of a start. You went out there and dominated the line of scrimmage, and that's exactly the reason why you bring in a guy like Quinnen Williams.
When you look at this film, you see nowhere for the quarterback to step up. That is a bear trap they're setting right there. This kid said, I'm coming in to do my job. Remember, do your job, and this is the results you will get.
There's the stat, fourth Cowboy since 1982 with a sack and a half in his first game with the franchise. Isaiah, it's not just Quinnen Williams, though. You said that in the first segment. It's Kenny Clark benefits from this. Yep. Donovan Ezeraku benefits from this. Anybody in the secondary at the same time, because that time clock as a quarterback just continues to shrink.
No, absolutely. Nate just alluded to it. I mean, when you have two guys, Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams, in the middle of that defensive line, it requires three, right? Nate played guard. He could tell you all day long. It demands the center and both guards to now focus in on those two individuals. Now your defensive end, Jadeveon Clowney, goes out there, he has a lot of QB pressures tonight. James Houston had a sack tonight. Those guys get better. Why? Because mano a mano, they feel like they can win their matchup, and you give them the best chance possible. Now, as a quarterback, you have those guys running the edges. To Nate's point, there's nowhere to step up as a quarterback. I'm a former quarterback. You don't want to have to step up into pressure. It's the worst thing in the world. You can deal with defensive ends running around you all day long, but if you have nowhere to step up, you start throwing errant passes. What happens with errant passes? Tip balls, interceptions.
And that's exactly what happened with the Marquise Bell interception, tipped by James Houston at the second level, and it was intercepted by Marquise Bell. All right, let's hear from head coach Schottenheimer when we come back here on Cowboys Game Night. Of course, he defeated his previous mentor in Pete Carroll tonight. We'll hear from the head coach next.
This segment was brought to you by the Texas Lottery. Dallas Cowboys scratch tickets from the Texas Lottery are here. Play today.
so proud of these guys, Calvin. I mean, the way that they grieved, cried, laughed, but they wanted to honor him, and we're not done honoring him. He's a part of our family forever, but it's been tough, man. I mean, these past 11 days have been really tough, and but I'm proud of those guys because just the way they played today, they played with Marshawn's play style. I'll relax on the way home a little bit. You know, when you're uber competitive, which I am, and you want something for your players so much, you know, I wanted us to be able to find a way to get this game because it was the next game and because it was after coming off a bye and, you know, losing a brother and a family member. And again, I think it's galvanized us forever. I mean, we'll always be tight, but this has really brought us together, brothers for life.
Clarence Hill, the LLS Cowboys, how do you balance the emotions of the week and having to play for Marshawn and then having to discipline two best offensive weapons to start the game?
Yeah, again, it's tough, you know. Made a coach's decision. There were some things that were missed, and so I had a conversation with those guys, and that was easy. But, I mean, you look at the energy those guys play with, you know. Clarence, they jump-started the offense when they got back in there. They didn't hang their heads. They didn't do any of that stuff, and that's why I love those guys, man. Again, this was a great team win.
You can catch all of Coach Schottenheimer's press conference on DallasCowboys.com and the Cowboys social channels. Back with Nate Newton and Isaiah Stanback and Kyle Yeomans, and you could hear there the conversation about Pickens and Lamb. We'll get to George Pickens in a minute. I want to talk about the passing game and the way that it did wake up when they did reinsert back into the ball game. I mean, the play calling seemed creative today. There was open lanes for these wide receivers, and Dak Prescott was uber efficient. He finished 25 of 33 passing, 268 yards, 4 touchdowns, as we've talked about. What was the success rate, and why was it successful for the Cowboys passing attack today?
Yeah, I think it was balanced offense, first of all. I think that, you know, that running game was kind of back in the fold. We know Dak does best whenever he has a solid running game behind him. Javonte Williams had a heck of a game as well. Didn't have any touchdowns, but he was productive. And then I think you utilize all your assets. And Ferguson, Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, you weren't running these guys on the same route trees that they typically run. They were interchangeable. Everybody was doing what they needed. Ferguson owned the middle. That's his responsibility. And then, you know, George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, they were running the routes of each other. You know, sometimes, you know, you see George Pickens just running down the field getting PI calls, and CeeDee Lamb's the one running over routes. That wasn't just the case tonight. They both were doing each other's jobs, and they were both the benefactors of it.
As long as the offensive line played well, they only gave it 1 sack, then not a whole lot of hurries and hits on Dak. That what made the difference tonight.
I like that. The offensive line has to play better across the board, but boy, was it fun watching George Pickens doing what George Pickens did today. Over 100 yards receiving in the first half. We'll talk about his success rate as well and why he has been such a special receiver and an addition to this Cowboys offense.
Closed captioning is brought to you by the Texas Lottery. Cowboys scratch tickets from the Texas Lottery are here. Play today.
Welcome back to Cowboys Game Night. George Pickens, 11 targets, 9 receptions, 144 yards, and a touchdown today. He had over 100 yards in the first half. George Pickens, even with CeeDee Lamb in the fold, has been effective. But Isaiah, you've been waiting for him to step up into territory like this when CeeDee Lamb has been back. He was back to what he was doing without CeeDee Lamb today.
It was inspiring to see him get off while CeeDee Lamb was there. And the reason why we bring that up is because since CeeDee Lamb has returned from injury, George Pickens hadn't scored a touchdown. He had 6 touchdowns while CeeDee was gone, and now this is his first touchdown since CeeDee's been back, now totaling him for 7. 144 yards is absolutely insane. He had to go yell at Coach a little bit to get some more targets, but it seemingly worked, and it's good to see both of these guys hitting on all cylinders.
He wasn't yelling at Coach. He was talking with his wide receivers coach. I know there was some hullabaloo on social social
Throw
media.
me the ball.
Hey, and they did. They
Yep.
did. They threw him the ball. What has made Pickens so special this year?
Just when letting the game come to him. He don't have to force. Like you say, he went over there and said, hey, coach, I'm wide open. He really wanted him to go for the 4th down.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? He came over there. He said his piece. He went inside down. He came back. They doubled CD, and he took advantage of all the one-on-one coverage in the world. And this is how it's supposed to work. Once they jumped on him, hey, CD got what he needed to get. So I like how they're doing this. And I'm liking how Pickens is staying real calm about doing this.
Well, and you've been a very big proponent of Jake Ferguson as well throughout
Yes.
his career. And I know he's faced some scrutiny for the lack of yardage there. But when you're able to use him in the red zone and as a safety blanket underneath guys like CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, that's what the whole offense is based around.
He is balanced. I mean, Isaiah would call him Mr. 5 yards. But he is balanced. He's part of the run game. He's a great help. He helps with the pass game by bumping the defensive ends before going out. He's a touchdown machine.
Hey,
Understand that.
Hey,
okay?
Listen, I respect it and I like it. The thing is, when you get in the red zone, like you were talking about, you have CeeDee Lamb, you have George Pickens. I dare you to put one guy only on either one of those guys in the red zone, right? Sure. So you have to put a safety to help out. So what does that do? That opens up the entire middle of the field for your tight end. And he's able to go work in between the zones or body up one person. So that's a win for the Dallas Cowboys.
How many touchdowns does George Pickens have this year?
7.
How many touchdowns does Jake Ferguson have this year?
7.
7. So with all of that being said, it works out to perfection. Now, CeeDee Lamb only has 2. There's a couple more that come his way, I'm sure. But the fact that you saw finally the first time that both of them score in the same game, I think that's significant.
Along with Ferguson.
Along with Ferguson. All 3 of them got one. Let's talk about Ryan Flanoy while we have the opportunity. He had one too. Dak Prescott's throwing it to everybody, winning some fantasy games throughout the end of Monday Night Football. We wrap up the Cowboys' 33-16 win when we come back.
To watch more Dallas Cowboys content on your connected TV, download the Cowboys Now app on Amazon Fire, Roku, and Apple TV. Dallas Cowboys Game Night was presented by AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
33-16, the final score. Here are the final stats one more time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Again, the Cowboys hold the Raiders to just 27 rushing yards. Ashton Ginty, the rookie 6th overall pick, had 7 yards on 6 carries. That is 1.2 yards per carry for the Frisco Lone Star product. Back with Nate Newton and Isaiah Stanback. I'm Kyle Yeomans. All right, it's time for your dogs of the game. It could be one dog collectively. It could be one for each of you. Who is it overall, guys?
You smell that, Nate?
Yes.
What's that?
You know what our dog is? Our dog is Quentin Williams.
Yes, sir. That's the dog.
That's right. Quentin Williams came in and was acting like a straight dog. He was a dog, had a dog day because he had his best game of his career. And he already had a great career. So now he's starting off another portion of his career by being an absolute dog for the Dallas Cowboys.
I agree 100%. Yes, sir. He's a dog.
If you've got Nate Newton barking on set after the end of the game, then you know you're doing something right. These two guys, I give you a lot of credit. Both of you wanted a star defensive tackle. You got it. And through one game, it looks good. However,
That's all we got.
who you got coming up this week?
Ooh, Philadelphia, can't wait.
It's going to be a big one for the Cowboys. Philadelphia Eagles come to town, the reigning Super Bowl champions and current NFC East division leaders, as the Cowboys look to get back to 500. Of course, you can join us on Cowboys Pregame Live and the Cowboys postgame coverage coming up next Sunday as well. For Nate Newton, Isaiah Stanback, and our entire crew, I'm Kyle Yeomans. Once again, the Cowboys win at 33-16. Enjoy your week, everybody.